Okay, I got a question to ask you. You've come here. You saw the cool opening intro. You saw the names. Did you see the names? Jeff Bajorek, Anthony Iannarino. I'm pumped. You know why I'm pumped? I'm pumped because I gotta admit it, I'm a fanboy of these guys. I love their content. I love their books. I love watching them speak. I love what they're about. I love their demeanor. I love everything they bring to the table. It resonates with me personally. So if you will indulge me, I'm just going to have fun this hour. And if you see me stammer, stumble, lose my train of thought, you'll understand that I'm just being a fanboy. That's all I'm being. My job today is to get you guys some answers. Now, let's start with that. What are we talking about? Did you see the topic? I'm assuming you did because you're here. You were given the link, you signed up, you saw it on social, you saw others talking about it, getting a lot of buzz. I went over the top when we were talking about, what do we want to talk about? What content do we want to bring to you? And Anthony just nonchalantly throws out there, well, let's do competitive displacement. And of course, if you're like me, I'm slow. All right. Maybe you're not like me, but I'm slow. And when I see competitive displacement, I go like, what, like we're displacing water? Like, that's what I know from school. What the hell does competitive displacement mean? And then he must have seen that blank look on my face because he goes, yeah, like, how to steal clients. And I'm like, bam, how to steal clients. Yeah, you're damn straight we're doing that topic. I love this topic. So I'm going to be taking a lot of notes myself. I suggest you do as well. And we're going to learn today how, when, where, why you should be stealing clients. Nothing but the best content from VanillaSoft. Now, I did mention Anthony. I did mention Mr. Bajorek. And one of the things these two speakers have in common is they're both going to be at the Outbound conference. Now, I've never been there before. Full disclosure, I am chagrined to say that. And I am jazzed, just outright jazzed to go. I can't tell you how excited I am. And if you've not, I really encourage you to go too. But if you have been, then you're going to totally be able to tell when I'm going to show you something shortly. When you're going to see it, you're going to go, yeah, that's the truth. So I asked a bunch of people who've been to Outbound before, including asking Mr. Bajorek, what's it like? And based on their feedback, we have thrown together this little promotional clip, won't last you long, to give you an idea of what it's about and why you should go. So let's go roll that. Wear comfortable shoes. That line there at the end kills me every time. If you're on the last webinar we had with Victor, the one before that with Mark Hunter, you've seen this already, but the wear comfortable shoes thing kills me every time. And I have to give full credit where that is due. Jeff Bajorek used that expression, wear comfortable shoes. And I said, I'm all over that. So that's where that came from. With that said, let's just go through a little bit of housekeeping first, and then I'll get the stars of this show on here. So what you need to know as it relates to ground rules, you're all on listen only mode, but you can chat. So you're on the VanillaSoft website where you see the video taking place right now. Right beside it is the chat window. Two things. You can just register. You just use it for free. So just like put your name in and go. Or if you attend our webinars all the time, you might want to register because then it remembers you and you never have to do it again. And if you're not seeing the chat, just hit refresh on your browser and bam, that will come up. So that's that. Or if you don't want to use that, you can just go to @vanillasoft.com. I'm sorry, @VanillaSoft on Twitter. My bad. Too many .coms in my life. And you will be fine. We're recording this. We get to ask that all the time. Are you recording this? Yes, we're recording it. And we're going to send it to you probably within 24 hours of now. 24 hours from now, give or take. Don't hold me to this, but give or take, it's going to be in your inbox. And when you get it, do not hesitate. Share this with everybody on your team, in your company, in your sister companies, in your friends, on social media. Make a point of doing that, because who doesn't want to learn how to steal clients, right? All right, with that, let's bring the guests up here. Let's bring up Jeff. Let's bring up Anthony. There you go. These are the guys. We're going to hold this here for a second before you actually see their smiling faces. Take a note of their email addresses here. If you're watching this on demand, not live, after the fact, because you got that link, that's how you reach out to them if you have a question for them. So we've got you covered. But if you want to see them live instead, let's get rid of this slide and let's bring them up. There you go, guys. How are you doing? Welcome to the show. Good to have you here. Mr. Iannarino, I got to ask you, you founded the show. Outbound Conference is yours. When you saw that little promotional clip, what was your reaction?
I have a reaction to something else that you said. What was interesting to me is that this is the first year coming to Outbound, and we charged you more to show up than we charged anybody else coming. That's just a fact. Like,
yes, it is.
You paid the most to be there, and I promise you that was intentional. We're like, listen, if Darryl's coming, I mean,
we got to pay big bucks to keep.
He's a peacock, so he's going to get a lot of attention. He's got the glasses, he's got the attitude. I'm like, you gotta make the barrier high for him to get in here. No, the truth of the matter is we're thrilled to have you as a sponsor. We couldn't have a better sponsor, and we're thrilled that you're going to be there. It's going to be a wonderful show. I
am so pumped, and it's true. Even though you invited Bajorek to join you, I'm still going to come. Speaking of you, Mr. Bajorek, what did you think of seeing Wear Comfortable Shoes? Did you recall you telling me that when you saw that up there?
I did, and I remember we talked. It was just a few weeks ago, and you were asking me, well, so what's it like? And I said, it's awesome. It's one of the best investments you'll ever be able to make. But the days are long, and you might want to wear comfortable shoes. And I was waiting for it. I saw a bunch of comments, flying by, and I said, oh man, I didn't expect it to be the hopefully trending hashtag though. So that made me laugh quite a bit.
All right, so I love it. So let's go to our next slide, set the stage. Because I want to, I'm sorry, we're going to go to this slide first. I messed up. Here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the actual agenda. Then we're going to get into, because I want to get to right away the first bullet. I'm going to steal clients, ? But we're going to ask that. I want to ask Anthony exactly what his thought process was when he suggested this. There's a couple points we want to talk about today. What is the red ocean? How to beat your competition, the concept of Mindshare and wallet share. And then this is the best part of the show, and this is where you got to watch top client stealing strategies. And then later on, don't tell anybody, we got a secret. We're going to share it. So if you got a question, though, anywhere along the way, just pop it in the chat window, and we will do our best to respond to that. So that's that. Now, this is what I wanted to get to. So, Anthony, competitive displacement or stealing clients. What was your thought process when you brought this up? Because you were excited to talk about this. Look, he's got a smile on his face already.
What else are we going to talk about? This is what we do. This is what we do in sales. And when I got into sales, and I was in my family's business when I was a really young kid, probably 18 or 19 years old, everybody I called on already had a staffing partner. Everybody had a staffing partner. So what do you do when everybody has a staffing partner and that's what you sell? You got to get rid of your competitor. You've got to go steal their companies away from them. So that's what you do. They're doing the same thing to us while we're doing it, though. So to be fair, I'm trying to steal your clients while you're trying to steal my clients. That's what we do when we're at our best. And I think that it's an important concept for people. When I became the sales leader, we would hire new people, and they would come to me and say something like, wouldn't it be easier to call on people that don't already have a staffing partner and teach them the value proposition? And my answer was always, no. They don't buy what we sell. You only sell things to people who buy what you sell. They're all already taken. So what you have to do is go steal your competitors' clients. It's simple, right?
I think it's simple, but not everybody agrees with that. Like I know many people in my professional circle who I think they would consider themselves high integrity people, and they would actually say that's bad. In fact, okay, I've got a true story to share here on a related note. And this is a marketing story, but this is a good example. So once upon a time, I had my own agency for an extended period of time, and I was a fractional CMO as one of my clients of a very, very, very large accounting agency in Canada. They were in top 10. Let's go with that. Lots of offices, lots of employees. And And the managing partner, so what we would call a CEO, comes into my office one day and he's mad at me. And I'm like, what's up, dude? And he's like, I just got a call from so-and-so at so-and-so. In other words, he got a call from the managing partner, the CEO of a much larger accountancy firm. And they are PO'd at us. And you need to stop what you did. Well, what I did was I put in place a pay-per-click campaign that targeted the competition. So imagine, I'm making this up, it wasn't them. Oh, you're thinking of PwC, you're thinking Ernst & Young. Well, you should use us instead, and this is why. And one managing partner calls the other, and my employer, my client, made me turn that off. So clearly, he had no desire to steal clients. So what do you say to that, Anthony, when people are like, no, this is bad and I don't want to do that, and we have a brotherhood or a sisterhood between us that we just know that line doesn't get crossed?
I have a lot of feelings about this. So let's talk about integrity. Your integrity is you have to do right by a whole bunch of stakeholders. Your competitor could be one of them. Like, you should play fair, sure. Don't lie about them. Don't say anything bad about them. But your job is to go into the market and create value for customers. I didn't make this up. Peter Drucker said the reason a business exists is to create customers. Your job is to take care of customers. If you believe in your heart, that you can serve them better than your competitor, you go take them from your competitor. That's what you do. And people might be unhappy about it. They might be a little sad. They could be a little bit miffed, and they could call you and say, please don't come after our customer like that. But that's not the way markets work. If I create greater value than you, then I have an absolute right to go take that account from you. And then you have an absolute right to figure out what you need to do to clean up your act so you can win them back or take my clients from me. That's the way that markets work. I didn't decide this, Darryl. I showed up. It was already like this. I did not invent the rules of the universe. I showed up. He didn't ask me for my opinion about these kinds of things. I showed up, and this is the way that it works. So I create greater value than you. You try to create greater value than me. We're competing for these clients. And I would tell you right now, there are people who are getting some heat for doing just exactly what you described, targeting their competitors. Well, their competitors are targeting them too. That's the world that we live in. It's competitive. There's a competition going on, and you're part of this. You know, this was one of my favorite things from one of our past presidents who said this. You don't have to be interested in the world. It's interested in you. Like, you're going to have to do something. You may not want to compete, but you're going to have people that are trying to take your accounts, and that's the way that markets work. And you know what? That is the obligation of a salesperson. And it's the obligation of a sales organization. Go into the world and serve customers. That's why you exist.
So I'll share a story on
you already did. You're sharing another story?
I'm sharing another story because you inspired me.
What's your quote on stories here? Like,
I got to get them in because you guys have all the knowledge. I'm a storyteller, you know, I got nothing else.
And I want to say something, and I love you, and I love your blue glasses. I love everything about you, but that's a marketer story. We're salespeople, so we don't feel that way. So there was a show called Deadwood, and the main character was a guy named Swearingen, and they come to Swearingen, and they tell him he has to kill somebody, and they hand him a gun. And he's like, no, I'm terrible with a gun. I can't hit a barn with a gun. He goes, give me a knife. I want to be close to them so I can feel it going into their body and feel the life lead them. And that's what marketers think about salespeople. They're like, I would like to win the client, but I don't want there to be any messy part that I have to deal with. Send the sales guys in to do that.
Look at Bajorek. He's killing himself over there. Oh, my gosh. True story. I'm going to tell my story anyway. To the point that Anthony made. So if you want proof, because he said they're coming after you anyway, 40% of my pay-per-click, my monthly pay-per-click budget here at VanillaSoft, and it's big, by the way, 40% is just buying the term VanillaSoft. Because you know why? Because I have to spend more money because the competition is trying to buy VanillaSoft and get my clients. So there we go. Jeff, I'm going to go over to you. This is my friend where you defend me. You tell Iannarino he's full of crap and that marketers rock, they rule the world, and that stealing clients is okay. What are your thoughts on that if you choose not to defend my honor?
Well, I'm going to do a typical sales guy thing and just go in a different direction.
Of course, deflect. Ignore it and go over here. I got it. Yeah.
Who are you trying to be mindful of here? Are you serving a customer or are you serving a competitor? I'm not worried about my competitor's feelings. I want to make sure that I'm doing everything above board because I want there to be a fair game. I want to make sure that we're all playing by the same rules here. And one of my favorite quotes from Anthony in the only sales guide you'll ever need, he said, "Don't poison the well." And that was one thing I think I always did really well. I would tell competitors, we did occasionally run into each other, right? I mean, I would tell them to stop doing things that that I didn't agree with the way they were doing it, and they would stop because they knew that I wouldn't do that to them, right? So we had a level playing field, and I thought that was really important. But listen, there was no mistake. They knew I was coming after them. I knew they were coming after me. We knew where we stood, and we agreed on the rules, but then it was about playing the game, and we knew we had customers to serve. And so I think it's one thing to make sure that you know the rules of the game. Now, if there was some unspoken agreement between the managing partners of those two firms that they weren't going to directly go after each other, then maybe that violated a rule that you didn't know about. But I think the idea that, well, we all just want to play nice here, we don't want to ruffle any feathers, you're going to be hungry if you don't ruffle any feathers.
I agree. All right, Anthony, you talk about red ocean. You have this whole, red ocean concept. So I got to ask you, what is the red ocean and how does it relate to what we're talking about today?
There's a Harvard professor who wrote a book called Blue Ocean Strategy. And the Blue Ocean Strategy is go out and carve out a niche like Airbnb, go where there is no market and make one, or find some compelling differentiated advantage that no one can catch up with you, like Netflix or Uber or any of the cool modern companies. Well, for most salespeople and most sales organizations, we have hundreds or thousands of competitors. And so the Blue Ocean Strategy is a wonderful idea. I completely support it. If you can find a way to get some advantage, of course, get that advantage. Find some way to have compelling differentiated value if you can. But for a lot of us, there's not a lot of compelling differentiated value except for what the salesperson does. So most of us who know how to sell, and most of us who are good at selling, it's because we worked in a commoditized market, and that's called a red ocean. It's a red ocean because everybody's got sharp teeth. There's a lot of blood in the water. Some of it's yours, some of it's your competitors, but it's super aggressive. It's competitive, and you have to go out and be really, really good at sales. So I happen to be a native of the red ocean. It's the only thing I've ever known. When you go to Outbound, you're going to hear Jeb Blunt talk. Jeb Blunt sold uniforms, and he had a blue smock that he could sell you, and every one of his competitors also had a blue smock. And there's just not a lot of differentiation there. Mike Weinberg, who's not going to be with us at Outbound this year, he sold like plastic fittings or something really sexy like that. And anybody who really knows how to sell, it's because you had to. And so you're in this part of the ocean where it's super competitive and you've got to figure out what to do. So the red ocean is where most people live in sales. And so it's important that you have strategies for competitive displacement because that's all you've got. You've got to go take business from your competitors.
Because if you don't do that, I mean, what's left? If you both have blue smocks, then it's just, and it comes down to price, does it not? And then you're probably going to starve.
Right. Unless you can sell. Jeb was good at it. I mean, and if you know Jeb, you know he's been good at it. That's how he figured out how to sell. You had to figure out how to sell the smock and for more money than your competitor.
All right, Mr. Bajorek, what are your thoughts on red oceans? Do you prefer the blue ocean? Are you a blue ocean kind of guy, or are you like Anthony, where the world you live in? And I'm going to say it's a lot of red ocean, and I'm going to set the stage because in some regards, I could look at both of you two gents and say, well, you're both competing for the same customer, because you both offer sales training, coaching, and wisdom and strategies, and runway model photo shoots. So is
That's why we don't refer business to each other. I'm trying to starve Jeff out right now. I'm making sure Jeff can't eat. His kids are starving right now. They keep sending me notes like, "Please stop beating up my dad."
Anthony, he slipped me some money to make sure he was in the middle of this shot, just so that you're on the outside there, Jeff. Just so you know. But what are your thoughts on the whole red ocean thing?
Well, meanwhile, Anthony is actually laying siege to my house by having teams of people placing boxes of best-selling books around the place so that anybody who tries to approach me sees him 10 times first. Look, you've got a job to do. If you're fortunate to have some game-changing technology that you can really create a brand new market with, then by all means go and exploit that and recognize how hard that is to do. I think the biggest point there is that the blue ocean strategy is great, and it's fun to think about ways that you can create value that other people can't, and even think about creating new markets of opportunities for yourself. I think that's a really good thought-provoking exercise for someone to think about differentiation. But at the end of the day, there's people who do what you do. And to Anthony's point, if you're looking for people who don't already know how to buy what you're selling, it's different. It's difficult on a completely different level. And that's something that I think, when you take a blue ocean strategy out of context because you think, oh, that'll be easier. I won't have to mess around with competition. I'll just do something totally brand new. But then you forget about the learning curve involved in that. And so I think the idea here is get comfortable with the idea that you have competition. And if you want to think about blue ocean strategy or along the lines of that kind of differentiation, I think that's beneficial, but then apply it to a comparison against the people you're competing against. How are you different than them? Let's have a conversation about different instead of an argument about better. And I think it's a big platform that I stand on. I think it's the right way to sell. But, I think there is the daydreaming of how can we do something totally different than what people are used to. And then there's the reality of, there's other people trying to think of that too.
So there's a couple things I really like about what's been talked about already, and I want to kind of frame it a little bit. First off, I really like Anthony's point where he's talking about, if you're adding more value, then go after them. Because in the end, think about this. In the end, who wins? The customer wins. Like to Anthony's point, maybe you steal the customer and then that causes your competitor to improve their game. And now they've got more bells and whistles and they steal them back. Well, who's winning in this back and forth tug of war? It's the customer because you're getting more features, more capabilities, more services, more functions, more value. So when someone objects to the whole idea of like, that's kind of dirty pool, I don't see it as dirty pool. The second part is, me personally, I'm all about the red ocean. Let's go scrap. We scrap all the time. Who's got the loudest voice in social? Who's got the most successful sales? Who's got the better branded logos on their website? Who's got the more, BS awards for top this and top that? That's the nature of the game. So I guess my question, I'm going to throw it to you first, Anthony, is when it comes to competition, because when I'm in that red ocean, there's my competition. How do I beat my competition so that I can steal their clients?
I wasn't really paying attention while Jeff was talking because I was out buying domain names. I got better than VanillaSoft.com. And now that I know that you're willing to pay, I've got a whole list of keywords I'm going to sell you in domain names after we're off this call.
See, that's the difference between sales guys and marketing guys. Marketing guys have budget and sales guys beg for the budget. See the difference? They're just so we're clear. Oh.
He's competitive now, isn't he? Oh, my goodness. So there's a couple things about beating your competition. So I spend a lot of my time thinking on and working on this problem. How do you win? And I'll boil it down to the essence is I have to create greater value than anyone else. If you intend to win, you have to create greater value. And that greater value comes from not only your solution, but it comes from your approach. Does your approach serve the buyer? Does the approach help the buyer make a good decision about their business? Do you have the insight and the situational knowledge to be able to help them make a good decision about their business? So the way that you beat them is by creating greater value. And then the second part of this is you have to create a preference to work with you. And so who you are, your sales approach, are you going to be accountable for what you sell me? All those kinds of things make a huge difference. And I think it's underestimated. The first book I wrote, The Only Sales Guide You'll Ever Need, part of a 3-book deal, an incredibly unfortunate title for a guy's got to sell 2 more books. It was really about the character traits and the skills, because you have to be somebody worth buying from. So part of this, if you live in the red ocean, is like you have to determine that you're the value proposition. You're going to go in and teach and coach and help build consensus and manage the process for and with your client. If you don't think about it that way, then you think about it in a way that I would call level 1. And level 1 is, I think my company's great, so you should buy from my company. I think our product's great, you should buy our product. That's how you get commoditized, and that's how you end up losing. So to Jeff's point, you have to be different in some meaningful way. And talking about those differences, I think of it as, can I create greater value? That's really what you're trying to do.
So you think I'm just pushing back a little bit. You think just by creating better value, you're going to beat the competition? Because I still have to actually go out and engage them. I got to either call them or market to them or email them or nurture them, get in front of their face to talk about why I'm better. How is better value the way to do it? I mean, I don't know. You tell me. I know we're going to get to strategies, but I guess I'm pushing back a little bit on just the better value thing, because to me it sounds a little bit like motherhood and apple pie. Everybody says that.
I didn't say better value.
Okay, sorry.
I said greater value.
Greater.
So there's four levels of value. So the first level of value is the value of the product. The second is the value of the experience. The third is the tangible, whatever it is that you're buying. But the fourth is the strategic outcome. So I have to get to a place that no one else is. I have to have an approach that lets me get there. It's a different game to play altogether. It's playing, three-dimensional chess while other people are playing checkers. And when you come in and say, let me tell you about my company, let me tell you about our offering, let me ask you what's keeping you up at night, that approach is just not value creating anymore. So you have to be the value, and you have to help guide people's decision making. You only need two things to be a trusted advisor, Darryl. What are they?
I don't know. Trust and curiosity.
Advice. Trust.
Advice. That's curiosity is leading to advice. That's why. Okay, I was close. He put me on the spot. I'm a marketer. Don't do that to me.
It's trust and advice. It's simple. So you have to have advice. So you need to have business acumen, situational knowledge. You've got to be able to have a strategic conversation with people. I mean, that's what we do in sales. I didn't know we were going to have a conversation about sales and marketing, but I'm enjoying it a lot.
It is fun, isn't it? We should do the next one of the series, getting sales and marketing aligned, but we'll wait for that one. I do like actually though what you're saying there, because I find a lot of sales professionals today don't own that, be that trusted advisor, offer greater value. They know their widget, and they know all the buttons to switch, and they know what happens when I do this, but they're not actually adding value. They're not connecting with their target, their ideal customer profile, their persona, their avatar, whatever you want to call it, and living their life to really connect the dots for them and help them understand why they should care and the challenges they face. Is that just me? Am I naive? Am I ignorant? Or is that...
No, that's it. I mean, that's where we are right now. So people think that trust comes from, I work for a company that's reputable. Well, that doesn't mean anything to me. I need you to be accountable for this. And they think the advice is, my company and our product are really good. But your product isn't advice. And your product's not advice. So if you sell an engagement platform, no one wants an engagement platform. That's not what they want. They want the outcome of an engagement platform. They want faster client acquisition. They want to capture more of their targeted market. They want to beat their competitor for deals. They want the certainty of having a pipeline. They want all kinds of things, but they don't want an engagement platform. It's just what gets you there. So that's levels 1, 2, and 3. Level 4 is what happens when we use it correctly and we have a great prospecting sequence and we execute it. That's what people are really trying to buy. So the trust can't come from your company. It's good when you have it. It's good that you have a credible, reliable product, but it comes from, can you help me get what I really want?
And I would go even one step further, and I know it's implied, Anthony, I won't mock you this time, where you say, I want this better function or this better capability. Well, the reality is what that really means when Anthony's talking about you want to have trust and advice is you got to say, I know you want that, but I understand that you don't have that right now because of these circumstances, these issues, and you're struggling to understand how you're going to overcome that to get what you want. And here's where I can now enter the picture and start to add value, and whether it's process or people or technology to get that outcome. And so understanding Correct. That is where you're truly adding value. I've given Anthony all the limelight here, Jeff, but I have not forgotten about you. And, how you doing over there?
It's his show. Every chance I get, I listen. When I hear Anthony speak, I listen. So you just go ahead and give him the limelight, all that you want. I think if there's something I could add to what you asked, Darryl, just a minute ago, is what difference does the tactic make? What difference does the approach make? If you don't know how you can create that value. If you don't know what you're going to talk about, it doesn't matter how you try to talk about it. And that's where I think so many people get it wrong, is they're not doing this thought work ahead of time. Like Anthony shows you in Eat Their Lunch, how the concept of level 4 value creation and how to go about creating it, right? And the best part about that book is that it's encouraging people to think in those terms before they go out and do what it is that they do. If you don't have something worth talking about, if you are not someone worth talking to, it really doesn't matter how you try to start conversations. And so that's I think, and part of my platform is getting people to think differently about how they're going to sell before they just go out there and sell for the sake of being active. And so to your question, I don't think it matters how you approach people yet, because that will matter. But what are you thinking about? What are you preparing for? What kind of a platform are you building for yourself? And I don't mean social media following. I mean, what is your level 4 value creation? What does it look like before you take it to market?
What I really like about what you just said, Jeff, is you said, before you even start, it's like, how am I going to sell? And I guess I'll use an analogy of the classic military analogy, right? I don't go and tackle that hill until, all the generals have gathered around the table and said, how are we going to attack this hill? And who's got what responsibility? And what if the enemy, counters this way or does that? What's our plan of attack to react in real time? Now, we all know most plans are thrown out the window once the action begins, but you do go in there having a plan. And I think that's really what you're saying. You're not just picking up the phone and saying, okay, I bought a list of everybody who is apparently the customer of my competition, and I'm just dialing for dollars. You're actually sitting back saying, you're being intentional and saying, how am I going to approach this? And what am I going to say? How am I going to engage them? How am I going to respond to their anticipated objections? Am I getting that right?
You are. And let's not pretend that your competitor isn't already creating great value, right? I mean, like, you're going to have to create greater value than what's already being created. And that's why I think it's going to have to be different, right? I mean, look, if your competitors are staying in business, they're clearly doing something right. And if they've got your attention enough, then, for you to be aware of them and to be going after their customers and their business, then they're clearly doing some things right. So, you have to figure out where you can create different value, where that difference can be greater, where it can have a different outcome for those people who it's going to matter to. Because you know what? Some people will never be my customers, and that's okay. I'd like to know who those people are not. I'd like to know who those people are, who those companies are, who will not be my customers, so that I can put my resources toward the customers who I know I can create better value for. And that's part of that thought process ahead of time. They can't all be zingers, so to speak, right? They can't all come your way because they're going to value things that you just don't create. And so let's have a really good idea what that landscape looks like so that we can be very tactical about who we approach and how. Then we can get into the action part of it, the dialing, the emailing, the social, the combined methods that we're going to wrap our arms around the attention of our customers.
All right. Let me shift gears here, and I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to ask a marketer question of my good friend Anthony, but it's also a sales question, which is I'll use another story. When I came to VanillaSoft, a handful of my competitors at the time had raised upwards of $250 million each. That gave them a lot of Mindshare. Whether it was earned is a whole different story, but because they raised a lot of money and they had name brand investors, they had the Mindshare, which means when their sales reps then reached out, it had instant brand recognition. Whereas we didn't have that same Mindshare because we hadn't raised that same amount of money. And I've worked hard to make sure the company gets more visibility moving forward. I think we've achieved some success, but there's a lot of upstarts who are wanting to, they're hungry. They want to go after the competition. They want to go after markets. They're not number one in their industry. How important is Mindshare in going after the competition and stealing clients?
It's critical. And I would say that in your space, people had awareness. I don't know that they had Mindshare. I mean, certainly they got awareness and they got attention, but Mindshare means I'm the one that's shaping what you believe and what you think is good and right and true. And that's not the same thing. So it's nice when you can go out and tell a story, people believe in us and they give us money. Yeah, but the real money that proves that you're a success is not investor money. The real money that proves that you're a success is customer money. And you can go out and buy customers with attention for sure. But there's a couple things I would tell you in a domination strategy. What I would preach, it would be something that sounds like own the narrative. Like we're the ones that tell you what to believe, why to believe it, and how to act on these things. That doesn't necessarily come from money. That comes from, are you communicating these things to people? So that's the first thing that I would tell you. I think you should own the narrative. And the greater your mind share in any given company, the greater your wallet share, because you're the person that they trust to help them make certain decisions. So as it comes to engagement, you will have larger competitors, but that doesn't mean that they dominate the landscape as it pertains to mind share. You know, and I've done this work myself in businesses, and I've done it, you know, as a brand too. I've written a blog post every day for 10 years, you know, and I've got a lot of content. And Darryl, I've noticed that you seem to generate a lot of content too. And when you do that, you can tip the scales in your direction by communicating things of value to people so that they pay attention to this, and you're the one that's shaping the lens that they look at the world through. I mean, this is what I'm trying to control, is the lens that you're looking through. And if you've got a better lens, you're going to have a lot of people that want to work with you.
So Jeff, let me just throw this out to you. How have you built your mind share? Because there's a lot of sales reps I know who look at you and the progress you're making. I actually was talking to somebody last night, and I was chatting about you. And one of the things they instantly said to me, beyond, yeah, he's a doofus, was they said, he's really, like, just, he is on fire. He's gotten so visible. He's really grown his practice. He's really grown his reach. Like, they actually said something nice. They said, it's been really fun to watch Jeff Bajorek become the rock star that he is. Now, that killed me to hear, and I'm saying it publicly now, but there you go. It's out there. Is there a way that you can help our audience grow their own mind share, maybe from your own lessons learned, so that when they then endeavor to steal clients, this is going to be one more piece of the pie to help them, you know, get it done?
Work on having something worth sharing. I think I'm humbled to hear what you say, and thank you for paying whoever said that to say it to you so you could say it to me. So I appreciate that. But I think I didn't just show up yesterday. And there's a lot of work that went into this, and there's a lot of refining that went into this. And there were a lot of phone calls, and there were a lot of emails, and Anthony will tell you, I've been reaching out to him for a couple of years now, as I have to guys like Mark Hunter, and more recently even, you know, been in much more close contact with Jeb Blunt and Larry Levine and James Muir and some of the other brilliant speakers that we're going to have at Outbound. We've been working on these kind of things together, and there's this groundswell that happens before anything really appears. So I think in terms of developing that reach and developing that visibility, I think you got to have something worth seeing before you worry about how visible it is. The other thing that I think that backs up and underscores is, and to your point about having attention, there's a difference between attention and engagement. And if some big press release or some big announcement or someone raises $250,000, you know, that'll get some people's attention. But it's another thing to get and hold engagement. And, you know, Anthony said, yeah, it's one thing to have investor money. Do you have customer money to back that up with? Right? Okay, great. You can get attention, or I can get attention. But if you read what I have to say, if you watch what I put out there on YouTube, if you listen to the podcast, if you find me somewhere, am I going to leave you with the impression that you want to find me again? And I think, again, that's more important than having visibility. Visibility will only get you so far. Do people want to see you again? And that's what I've spent more time than anything thinking about, writing about. And, you know, I go back to it now. Some of the earlier stuff that I've created and produced, it's like, geez, I don't know if I want to watch that. I don't know if I want to listen to that. I don't know if I want to read that. Let me go back and make it better. And because it's about the second engagement for me. The first one's really nice and they're necessary, but have I done enough to earn a second? You know, with a prospect, did you get enough accomplished? Did you establish enough on this first outreach, on this first connection to be invited back? And then did you ask for that next engagement to happen, but that's a sales process question for another webinar, right? I mean, so I don't know if I'm answering your question, Darryl, but I think in order to be more visible, I think it's first pretty important that you have something worth seeing.
So there's a lot of foundational.
Go ahead. The truth though about Jeff's rise in the profession, isn't it really all the fact that he's at Outbound this year? Isn't that what the main driver was? Like it really, it's not much to do with him at all. It's just that once your name is there, like you've made it. Isn't that true, Jeff, for you?
Yeah. 100%.
He's been working for a long time. 10 more years, he'll be an overnight success.
Almost.
You know, Jeff, I had to pay a lot of money, and the only name that's even visible is just a company name. My name's nowhere to be found. So you're already a better investor with better ROI than I am. And I agree. We are totally leveraging Outbound because it's a kick-ass conference, has a great reputation. It kind of makes you wonder how Iannarino got that idea. I don't know. I don't get it. One of the things
Jeb Blunt told me that it was the best idea I've ever had. So,
and I'm curious.
It's my best idea.
Yeah. I'm sure the special people in your life love to hearing that. What about me? Especially, anyway, I won't go there. One of the things I will say is everything I'm hearing is if you want to see the competition, these two guys are telling you you've got to add value, you've got to differentiate, you've got to commit to it. Anthony is a writing machine. I every time I get his stupid email in my inbox, I have to read it, and it's usually at a bad time because I'm in the middle of something, but it's awesome stuff. He gets up god awful early to write it. I think he's up at like 5 a.m. doing his thing. I can't do that. So you got to work around your own constraints, but you got to commit. Jeff says the same thing. So that's a really big thing. And there was a funny story I read the other day on LinkedIn. There was a woman who was sharing about how she'd been following Morgan Ingram for years. Morgan Ingram's with the crew at J Barrows. And she goes, imagine what happened one day when my phone rang and I looked at the display and it said Morgan Ingram on it. Boom, I picked it up. The point being, the irony is she didn't buy what he was selling, but she answered that phone because he had brought value. There was greater value there, and that earned the right to try to steal the get competition. Okay, that's enough storytelling. Let's get down to what people really wanted to hear when they joined this, the whole idea of stealing clients. We've set the stage. We've talked about what you need to do kind of to prep for it, but now you're here. You want to know what are some top client stealing strategies. And I'm going to go kind of back and forth between Anthony and Jeff. Hopefully they've got their A game on. They're going to bring an example or two. Hopefully they didn't compare notes because it'd be kind of funny if they both said the exact same thing at the same time. They're going to give, we're going to let the big guy here, who apparently is the founder of the show, that's kick-ass, Outbound Conference, outboundconference.com, to start the process. Number one, top client stealing strategy, Anthony.
I wrote this in the book, Eat Their Lunch. And one of the ways that I learned this was when you're in a commoditized red ocean market is that I would come in and I had this beautiful deck that told everybody everything about my company and what made us wonderful. No one ever asked me for a copy of that deck, but I had a situation and I thought I have to go in and teach these people how to think about labor markets. So this is probably like late 90s. Late 90s, I walk in with an ugly PowerPoint deck, all with data from the U.S. Census and Bureau of Labor Statistics and Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and I briefed them on how far away from the market they were when it came to pay rate and shifts and culture. And at the end of that meeting, the first time this ever happened to me, I had an executive leader say, "Can I have a copy of your slide deck?" And no one had ever asked for the slide deck that was completely self-oriented. And I asked the question, I said, "Why do you want the slide deck?" And he said, "I have to brief our senior leaders after this meeting, and that content would be really helpful to help them understand why we're where we are." And I said, "Sure, you can have the slide deck." And he said, "Would you mind taking your logo off of it?" And I was like, wow, I'm doing this guy's homework for him. Like he wasn't ready for his meeting, but now he's ready for his meeting because I did this work. And it dawned on me, like, the reason that I was interesting to this executive is because he's trying to solve a strategic problem, but he doesn't have the depth of knowledge from which to make that decision. And then I never took the original deck out on a call with me again. I only continued to build what at the time I called my insight deck, which was what it was. It was just all of my ideas about, well, what about this and what's the implication? What about this? What's the implication? And it caused me to have a certain response where executives would show up. So if you can teach and if you can share with people how to think about the decision that they're making, you're going to end up with Mindshare, and you're going to position yourself to take customers away from your competition.
All right, so I'm capturing these. So his what would you call it? His little sound bite there. If you can teach them how to think about the decision they're making, again, it's adding value is what he's doing, right? He's differentiating. Then that's going to be a way to steal it from a client. I love it. Jeff, over to you. What's a kick-ass way to a top client stealing strategy you got?
The way I took more business away from competitors at sometimes a 15 or 20% premium was similar to what Anthony just mentioned, but changing the conversation away from your features, your benefits, even your value as it relates to the price. There's a lot of people that feel that it's all about price, or our customers think of us all the same way. Well, if they're thinking of you all the same way, that's your fault. And I think that what I did in the field, I used a lot of studies. I used a lot of clinical research. I sold in the medical device field, and there were people thinking about all of the biologic implants that were out there when I sold into orthopedics as, well, just whatever my other guys got, I'll just use it from him because it's all the same anyway. It's all safe. It's all processed similarly, etc. And we had a process that was different, and we didn't quite understand how our process was different until some current research was being talked about the use of gamma irradiation in biologic implants. And I won't bore you with all the science, but we were significant in our field, in our marketplace, and that we didn't use gamma irradiation. We didn't need to. And it wasn't until we recognized that a lot of the conversation was out there in the clinical research field about how gamma was bad. Well, now, instead of going to hospitals, going to orthopedic surgeons saying, hey, we've got this great thing and there's some, kind of subjective quality issues and we've got better availability and we're local and we do this or that or the other thing, it was, hey, have you ever thought about what gamma rays are doing to your orthopedic outcomes? And the conversation shifted altogether. This wasn't even anything that they considered. And it brought up things like, wow, I don't even recognize what I'm using. I don't even know how they process. This was never even something that I needed to consider in the past, and now I do. And what was demonstrated right away was that I knew something that they didn't know, and they wish they did. And then all of a sudden, I was someone worth talking to. And then all of a sudden, it was, wow, this is clearly the decision that I want to make. This is the direction I want to go in. Go tell the hospital that I want to use this, and I don't care what it costs. And when you can change the game, right? I would debate, and I would argue that we didn't create a blue ocean, but we used some of that blue ocean strategy thinking to apply it to the red ocean situation in reality. So, I mean, similarly to what, Anthony said about making them think differently, but also demonstrating that you know something they don't know and they wish they did. And if you don't know that, go learn it. And if you can't learn it, if there's just nothing out there, go find some place where you can do that, right? Maybe you need another job. If you really are a commodity, then maybe go somewhere where you're not a commodity. Figure it out.
So a couple cool things were said there. I love the part about if you're a commodity, go somewhere else. I fully agree with you. That's true whether you're in sales or in a career. I love that sound bite. That said, so Anthony said, teach them how to think about the decision they're making because you're going to add value. And Jeff said, on a related note, change the conversation away from features and benefits and get to the issues. Change the game. You know something they don't know, but they know you know, and that's why they keep you around. So I love that. Okay, back to you, Anthony. Another way to steal clients, another strategy.
I'm going to tell you consistency of effort over time. And what I notice about salespeople is they give up fairly quickly when somebody has somebody sitting in their seat. So you've already got a supplier. They give up really quick. I'll tell you a story. I won a $5 million account. It was a contact center here in Columbus, and I called 11 different stakeholders multiple times over the course of a couple of years. And every time I called them, I sent a very personal thank you card, thanking them for rejecting my meeting request again. and telling them that I'm very anxious to have an opportunity to work with them, and I would send my business card. True story. So at some point they had a very serious problem, and they sat down at a table, the entire 11 people in human resources, and said, who do we know that might be able to help us? And they all had many, many copies of my business card and all the cards that I'd sent them. And they sat down and said, we should probably call him. He's been banging away for a long time. So I showed up there, and they literally put all my cards back in a box and gave them back to me. And some of the displacement means you have to play a game of persistence. So patient persistence, professional persistence over a long period of time. You can't go away and give up. So if you think about the way that things work in the world, given a long enough timeline, every dream client on your list is going to change. The question is, are you known? Are you known as a value creator? Are you staying top of mind? Are you feeding people the ideas that they need so they think of you as a person who might be able to help them? If you're not doing that work and working on shaping that lens, the Mindshare, you make it really difficult to win. So if you can be persistent and teach and share and persist over a long period of time, you got a much better shot of winning.
All right. So Anthony's talking about consistent. He's using two words here: consistency of effort over time, which is really powerful. But then he's also, and these are my words, he's really saying, play the long game. When you think of stealing clients, you're thinking of like, now I'm going to send this email out, I'm going to pick up this phone, and I'm going to like wow them, and I'm going to seal them, and I'll have a contract by next week. Instead, he's telling you patient, professional, persistence. And then eventually you will get your chance at bat, and then you can knock it out of the park, and life is good. But don't give up. I love that. So because it's funny, because when we think about stealing clients, we don't think about playing the long game, do we? We're thinking about instant gratification. So this is really approaching it strategically, which is what we said. Top client stealing strategies. Keyword there, strategy. All right, Jeff. Number 4, top client stealing strategy. You're number 2, though, so this should be a home run for you because you've only really got 1 so far. Anthony's winning 2-1. Over to you.
I was going to say persistence until Anthony started talking. And then I said, all right, I got to go back to the drawing board here. I'm going to take persistence from another standpoint, though. I don't think you should take the first no and be satisfied with it. I think most of, probably 60%, maybe 2/3 of the initial objections you get are going to be very surface level. There's not going to be a lot of substance behind them. But everybody today is playing the sales game with kid gloves on. They don't want to offend anybody. No one wants to ruffle any feathers. Nobody wants to make anybody angry. And I think sometimes what happens is you're too willing to back off at the expense of, or at the potential expense of, irritating somebody. And instead, you're not demonstrating how passionate you are about creating value and creating the change for that client. Sometimes the best way to earn that respect is to not take the first no for an answer. It's to dig a little deeper. Say, okay, I thought you might say that, but what do you really mean by that? Or, just trying to, even if that first objection is them trying to brush you aside, well, then brush back and brush that aside and ask for more clarity, ask for more detail, ask for more insight, ask for them to give you a little bit more than that. And I think be confident and be faithful in your efforts, in your belief that you can create that greater value. Because if you're just going away the first time they say go away, then how much do you really believe? How confident are you? How much swagger do you have in that? Like, get after it. You believe in the company you work for. You believe in yourself. You believe in the change that you can make for people. You believe that your customer, your prospect in this case, is better off for having done business with you if they would only give you the chance. You are asking for the chance to show them. And going away at the first brush off does not demonstrate or underscore any of that belief. So beyond persistence, it's not taking that first no for an answer, digging a little bit deeper. If you're not learning something with every sales call, you're failing. So make sure that you're going and moving the ball forward every chance you get. And I think that means, having prepared for some of those objections. I think that means having a solid sales process to move through and constantly asking for those next steps. There's no such thing as a good conversation, a good sales conversation that doesn't have a mutually agreed upon next step.
All right. So you guys have really talked a lot about skills, persistence, patience, adding value, really just being the better option. Basically, in some regards, the number one strategy is just be better than the competition, be what your prospect needs. So, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, what I would suggest you do if you really want to know more details, you should go to Amazon or your favorite book retailer nearby and order a copy of Eat Their Lunch, coincidentally published by Anthony Iannarino. You're going to find not only is it a best-selling book, but it's going to help you get what you want when it comes to sealing your clients. With that all said, though, Anthony, you do have a secret, if I recall, that relates to salespeople winning more, which is really what we're talking about here. So I won't tell anybody, but I'd love to know, what is your secret?
Let me share a secret here that many people don't know, and I would tell you because of the audience, I want to share it in this way. What Gartner's research shows is that when a company buys something, they tend to talk to 3 different groups, and they spend about 18% of their time dealing with 3 different groups. So I watch a lot of football. I'm a huge college football fan. It's maybe one of the only times I'll watch more than an hour of TV a week is college football season. And one of the strategies in football is to control the clock. And so if you can have a presence, and a presence is not a phone call. So if you're an SDR, I apologize because I know you have a lot of phone calls. You shouldn't have as many phone calls. You should start having video conferences as often as you can for every significant meeting because it gives you a physical presence like we have right now. But what you want to do is dominate the clock by having a presence and by controlling the process. So if you have a presence and you get the next meeting, as Jeff just alluded to, like you leave a meeting with another meeting, you leave each commitment with another commitment, then you start dominating time. So you have a presence, your competitor doesn't have a presence. You're getting 12% of the time, they're getting now 2% of the time, because you're using up all the time that people have to have meetings because the experience with you is better, because you've got greater insight, because you have high sexual charisma. I don't know, whatever you have. Darryl, I was just thinking of you when I said that. But when you, whatever it is that keeps them in the room, and I mean, the glasses and the hair, the thing is working for you, I'm just saying. But you can dominate the clock and dominate it by having a presence. If you're there all the time, if you keep having the conversations, and let's assume that your competitor decides to email a proposal and pricing. Well, they don't have a presence. Somebody's just going to look at that. But when you say, look, we're going to have a video conference, I'm going to walk you through the proposal because I want to make sure it's perfect for you. I'll talk about the investment so you understand why you're paying. In Jeff's case, you're paying 15% more for this. That's the way that you win. So the secret is to have a presence and make the presence the best presence you're capable of doing in your role. So if you're able to be a field rep, a physical presence is always going to over-index compared to an email or even a phone call. If you're an SDR, you can develop great relationships over the telephone and when and where it's possible for you. Web conferences, that's a real thing now. You don't have to worry about it. Your clients do it all the time. Just get in front of them and dominate the clock.
So there you have it. Have a presence. That is a secret. And actually, it's fully true. These 2 gentlemen themselves are perfect examples of how having a presence can really help you rise in your career. With that said, we're going to bring up this slide one more time where we've got their email addresses. If you want to follow up with Anthony, you want to follow up with Jeff, this is how you reach them. If you just want to talk trash, there's my email address too. So there's that. In the meantime, this is just a prelude. They're both going to be at the Outbound Conference. Please go to outboundconference.com. Check it out. Sign up. You'll see them live and in a way better setting with more time and more details. Check them out. They're awesome. If you want a code VS100, as in VanillaSoft 100, of course, you can always go to jeffbajorek.com and Iannarino.com, right? So there you go. Check those guys out one-on-one. But we, my friends, are out of time. So thank you, gentlemen, for your time today. We're going to wrap things up. We hope you have a wonderful day selling. We hope you go steal your clients' your competition's clients. I can't talk. I got to get out of here. My name is Darryl Prale. This is VanillaSoft. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.